Your brain doesn't wait passively for your eyes to gather every detail. Instead, it predicts the layout of the room based on memory, previous experiences, and sensory clues like the smell of coffee or the hum of the refrigerator. You might reach out and touch a countertop without seeing it clearly, and your hand will land where you expect. That is your brain predicting reality and filling in the missing details faster than your senses could provide them. Without this predictive mechanism, navigating the world would be slow, inefficient, and full of mistakes. This predictive function extends far beyond physical spaces into time itself. When you interact with other people, your brain predicts their intentions, expressions, and even the tone of their speech. This is why we can finish someone's sentences or anticipate a friend's reaction to a joke. Your brain is constantly running simulations of the immediate future, generating expectations about what will happen next, and then testing those predictions against reality. Social interactions, communication, and survival all depend on this astonishing ability to anticipate and respond almost instantly. Even perception of motion and visual continuity relies on prediction. When you watch a fast-moving object, your eyes and brain work together to dictate its trajectory. This allows you to catch a ball or follow a bird in flight. Your brain is essentially a time traveling a few milliseconds into the future to compensate for the delay in processing visual information. In this sense, reality as you experience it is not an immediate reflection of the world. It is a forecast constructed by your brain, designed to keep you one step ahead. The predictive nature of the brain also explains why illusions, hallucinations, and perceptual errors occur. When the brain's predictions deviate from sensory input, or when it has insufficient information, perception can be distorted. A shadow in a dark alley might look like a lurking figure. A distant noise might be interpreted as a threatening sound. Your brain is always working to reduce uncertainty and maintain a coherent sense of reality, sometimes at the expense of objective accuracy. Ultimately, understanding the brain as a prediction machine reveals that our experience of reality is not a passive observation, but an active construction. The brain is continuously modeling, simulating, and forecasting the world, allowing us to function efficiently in an ever-changing environment. Every sensation, every perception, every moment of awareness is the product of this remarkable predictive engine, making your conscious experience a constantly updated, highly sophisticated approximation of reality. If you want, I can expand key point 3 next in the same immersive, detailed style, so your speech continues to grow into a full, compelling narrative. Do you want me to continue with that? When we talk about consciousness, most people imagine a clear, stable awareness of the world, a constant observer that witnesses life as it unfolds. But modern neuroscience reveals a far stranger truth. Consciousness itself is a kind of hallucination, carefully orchestrated by the brain. It is not a passive window to reality, but an active, ongoing construction. The brain continuously predicts and interprets sensory input, emotions, memories, and intentions, weaving them into a coherent narrative that we experience as a self and reality. Consider your everyday experience, the colors you see, the sounds you hear, the feeling of sitting in a chair, or even the sense of your own body. All of these are not direct reflections of the external world. They are mental models generated by the brain designed to give you a stable, usable perception. Neuroscientist Anil Seth describes consciousness as a controlled hallucination. The brain hallucinates reality in a way that is constrained and guided by sensory input. This means that the world you experience is both imagined and grounded at the same time. It is a blend of prediction and confirmation. Dreams, hallucinations, and psychedelic experiences provide vivid examples of this principle in action. In dreams, the brain creates entire worlds, complete with sights, sounds, and narratives, even when external sensory input is minimal or absent. During hallucinations or under the influence of certain substances, the brain's predictions can override reality more fully, producing experiences that feel real but are entirely generated internally. These phenomena demonstrate that the sense of a stable, shared reality is not guaranteed. It is actively maintained by the brain. Even our sense of self is part of this controlled hallucination. The brain integrates information from the body, the senses, memory, and internal states to generate a coherent identity. This is why we feel continuity of self across time, despite constant changes in our thoughts, emotions, and physical state. In reality, the self is not a fixed entity, but a story your brain constantly writes and rewrites, predicting who you are in each moment and maintaining the illusion of stability. The brain achieves this remarkable feat through hierarchical prediction. Lower-level predictions handle immediate sensory data, while higher-level predictions integrate context, expectations, and long-term memory. Together, they create a seamless, ongoing experience of life that feels stable and reliable, even though it is constructed moment by moment by moment. Consciousness is therefore both adaptive and fragile. It allows us to interact effectively with the world, but it can also be altered or disrupted, revealing its true nature as a mental construct rather than a direct window to reality. Understanding consciousness as a controlled hallucination transforms how we see ourselves and our experience of life. I explained why perception is subjective, why memories can be unreliable, and why our emotions and expectations profoundly shape the world we inhabit. It also opens the door to profound insight. By becoming aware of the brain's role in generating reality, we can begin to explore new states of consciousness, question our assumptions, and recognize the incredible creativity behind every moment of our experience. If you want, I can expand key point 4 next in the same immersive style, so your speech continues to grow into a full-length, deeply engaging narrative. Do you want me to continue with that? Our perception of the world is not purely objective. It is profoundly shaped by our emotions. Every smile, every frown, every moment of fear or joy subtly tunes the way we interpret our surroundings. In other words, emotions are not just responses to the world. They actively construct the world you experience. Neuroscience has shown that the brain integrates emotional signals into perception at nearly every level, meaning that how you feel can literally alter what you see, hear, and even remember. Think about a moment when you were scared, perhaps walking alone at night or facing an important presentation. The shadows seemed darker, the noises louder, and every movement around you carried a hint of threat. It isn't imagination. It's your brain adjusting its predictions based on emotional. Fear sharpens attention and biases perception towards potential dangers, essentially coloring reality with a heightened sense of threat. Conversely, when you're joyful or relaxed, the same environment feels safe, warm, and welcoming. Your emotions are constantly tuning the lens through which your brain interprets sensory data. Emotions also play a crucial role in prioritizing what the brain considers important. Dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and motivation, enhances the salience of experiences that align with your desires or goals. Anxiety, on the other hand, biases perception towards potential harm or failure. Even subtle emotional states can influence how we interpret ambiguous stimuli. A neutral facial expression may appear friendly when we are happy, but hostile when we are anxious. This demonstrates that our brain's predictions are deeply intertwined with internal emotional states, shaping the very reality we inhabit. Memory, too, is filtered through emotion. The events we remember vividly are rarely neutral. They are imbued with emotional significance. When recalling past experiences, the brain reconstructs them using both sensory data and the emotional context we associate with those memories. This reconstruction process can alter perception of the past, emphasizing emotional highlights while downplaying neutral or contradictory details. In essence, memory reinforces the emotional lens through which we perceive reality, creating a feedback loop where emotion shapes perception, which in turn influences memory and future expectations. Even at a physiological level, emotions affect perception. Stress hormones like cortisol can heighten sensory sensitivity, increase vigilance, and alter attention, while positive emotions can broaden perception and promote creativity. Your internal state constantly interacts with external input, making your experience of the world a deeply personal, emotionally tinted hallucination. This means that no two people truly perceive reality in the same way, even in identical environments, because their emotional landscapes are different. Different. Understanding the emotional coloring of perception empowers us to navigate our experience more consciously. More consciously, by recognizing how moods influence interpretation, we can begin to see how feelings distort, amplify, or enhance our perception of reality. It also explains why cultivating emotional awareness, mindfulness, and resilience can profoundly change not only how we feel internally, but also how we experience the external world. If you want, I can expand key point 5 next in the same detailed and immersive style. So your speech continues into a full-length, deeply engaging narrative. Do you want me to continue with that? Memory and imagination are often thought of as opposites. Memory being a recollection of the past, imagination the creation of the future. But neuroscience reveals that they are two sides of the same mental process. Both involve the brain generating internal experiences that feel real, and both are constructed using overlapping neural networks. In essence, remembering and imagining are hallucinations generated by the brain, guided by predictions, expectations, and prior knowledge, blending reality with interpretation. When you recall a memory, your brain does not simply replay a recorded event like a video. Instead, it reconstructs the experience, piecing together fragments of sensory input, emotional context, and narrative structure. This reconstruction is influenced by your current state of mind, your beliefs, and even new experiences, which can alter how the memory feels and what details stand out. Details stand out. Over time, memories evolve and change, sometimes diverging significantly from the actual events. In this way, memory is not a static record, but a living, dynamic hallucination that shapes how you perceive both past and present. Imagination operates through a remarkably similar mechanism. When you imagine a scenario, whether daydreaming about a vacation, planning a project, or anticipating a conversation, your brain activates the same regions involved in memory, prediction, and sensory processing. The imagined experience can feel vivid and real because the brain is using the same computational processes to generate it as it does for actual perception. This overlap explains phenomena such as vividly reliving a future event in your mind, or why imagining movement can activate motor neurons as if you were physically performing the action. The interplay between memory and imagination has profound implications for how we experience reality. Your brain constantly merges recollections of the past with predictions about the future, creating a continuous, coherent narrative that guides decision-making, behavior, and perception. For example, fear of a potential danger often arises from combining remembered experiences with imagined threats, producing a perception of risk that feels immediate and real. Similarly, anticipation of pleasure or success combines memory of positive outcomes with imaginative projection, influencing motivation and attention. This blending of memory and imagination also highlights the subjective nature of consciousness. Since both processes are constructed internally, the reality you experience is never purely external. It is filtered through layers of personal history, expectation, and creative simulation. Our inner worlds are continuously crafted by the brain, stitching together fragments of the past with hypothetical futures to generate the present moment. In a sense, every thought, dream, or decision is a rehearsal of possibilities, a predictive simulation that feels as vivid as the events themselves. Understanding that memory and imagination are part of the same hallucinatory process changes the way we think about experience, learning, and self-identity. It explains why two people can witness the same event and remember it differently, why visualization can enhance performance, and why our inner life is both a source of insight and potential distortion. By recognizing the constructive nature of our mental experiences, we gain the ability to observe, question, and even reshape our perception of reality itself. If you want, I can expand key point 6 next in the same immersive style, which will complete the full set of key points for your speech. Do you want me to continue with that? While every individual constructs their own version of reality through the brain's predictive processes, there is a remarkable phenomenon that allows humans to live together in a seemingly coherent world. Reality is a shared hallucination. Despite the fact that each person's perception is unique, shaped by memories, expectations, emotions, and sensory processing, humans generally agree on what is a real. No. This agreement is not because the world is objectively identical for everyone, but because our brains are structured similarly, and our cultural, linguistic, and social frameworks create a consensus about the rules of reality. Language is one of the most powerful tools that enable this shared hallucination. Through words, we communicate abstract concepts, feelings, and observations, allowing others to align their internal models with ours. For example, when you describe a sunset as a vividly red and warm, others can imagine it similarly because their brains use comparable neural frameworks to interpret color, light, and emotion. Over time, repeated interactions reinforce these shared mental models, producing a collective version of reality that feels objective, even though it is fundamentally constructed by individual brains. Culture and social norms further stabilize this shared hallucination. Societies develop common interpretations of symbols, events, and behaviors, providing a scaffolding for understanding and predicting each other's actions. A traffic light, a handshake, or a currency note is meaningful only because our brains collectively agree on its significance. These shared constructs allow humans to cooperate, create complex societies, and achieve feats far beyond the capabilities of a single individual. In this sense, much of what we consider reality is not inherent in the external world, but arises from the alignment of many minds projecting their internal models onto a shared stage. Even science and mathematics, often considered the pinnacle of objectivity, are manifestations of this shared hallucination. Scientists agree on measurements, physical laws, and formulas because they operate within similar cognitive architectures and communicate findings in ways that can be universally interpreted. The laws of physics do not exist independently in the brain. They are models that brains converge upon through observation, experimentation, and consensus. Reality, then, is as much about agreement as it is about perception. This concept also invites humility and empathy. Recognizing that everyone experiences their own version of reality reminds us that no two perspectives are exactly the same. Conflicts, misunderstandings, and disagreements often arise because people inhabit slightly different internal models of the same world. By understanding the brain's role in constructing reality, we can better appreciate differing viewpoints, knowing that each perception, even if contradictory, is valid within the observer's mental framework. Moreover, this awareness opens doors to intentional shaping of shared reality. Leaders, educators, artists, and innovators harness the power of collective perception, aligning multiple brains to imagine, believe, and act in ways that create social change. This shows that the hallucinations of individual brains are not isolated. They interact, converge, and produce the world we live in together. In essence, reality is not merely a fixed external environment. It is a consensus of overlapping, interwoven hallucinations. It exists because our minds collectively agree on the structure, meaning, and rules that govern our experience. Understanding this challenges our assumptions about objectivity, truth, and certainty, revealing the extraordinary collaborative nature of human perception and consciousness. If you want, I can now compile all 6 expanded key points into a polished full-length speech ready for delivery, keeping the immersive narrative flow for 15-20 minutes. Do you want me to do that? So, what is reality? Is it the world outside or the world inside your mind? As we explore today, your brain does not passively observe life, it actively constructs it. From predicting the future to coloring perception with emotion, from generating memories to imagining possibilities, and from shaping consciousness to creating shared realities, every moment you experience is a controlled, continuous hallucination. This understanding doesn't diminish the beauty or significance of life. It enhances it, reveals the creativity and power of your own mind, the intricate dance between perception and prediction, and the remarkable way humans connect through shared understanding. Reality is both deeply personal and profoundly collective, fragile and yet astonishingly coherent. By realizing that your experience of the world is a living creation of your brain, you gain the ability to step back, observe, and even shape your perception. You can cultivate awareness, empathy, and insight, not only into your own mind, but into the minds of others. So, the next time you see a sunset, hear a song, or connect with another person, remember, you are not just perceiving reality, you are participating in its creation. And in this dance of consciousness, every thought, every feeling, every hallucination matters.